Well, hey, YouTubers, on my art channel, Big D channel, coming at you this afternoon, 12:15 here in Pittsburgh. Going to be another cold, brittle day, and I have so many art supplies that I figured I would do a video on the uses of the different art supplies. We can discuss that as a means of helping you with your pursuit of being an artist and spending money on art supplies. I have all these brushes, number one. And you know what I use? I use these four. But I got all these. Now some of these are better for acrylic paint. These are good for everything. I use these for everything. I have some in here that are supposed to be better for acrylic paint, oil paint, you name it. I have a whole bunch of brushes. A lot of them are cheapies. I have shapers for my pastels. I have 3 sets of color pencils. I have my small set here because they're pricey, and I got these after I started to give up on color pencils. I got my Faber-Castell 12 set. You know, that's basically a basic set that can be used for anything. They're very good. I have a 48 set of Staedtlers. I have a 24 set of Crayola and another cheap brand. I also have a 12 set of Prismacolor color pencils. Got a lot of color pencils. I got a small set of Derwent watercolor paint pencils. I have watercolor paint. I have acrylic paint, as you can see right here. This is a 12 set of acrylic paint. I have a 18 set of gouache, something that I just got into. I think I'm going to want to mess around with this gouache. I think it's got something to offer, and what got me into paint was the water-soluble oil pastels. Once I got into water-soluble oil pastels, I started realizing that I like paint more than I like regular pastels. But again, after trying to paint some things, as you can see, I'm not very good. This was done with a mixture of acrylic and gouache. Okay? And as you can see, I like how the mixture of acrylic and gouache, I like what it did on the water, but the picture is so dark, and that's something that is a drawback of acrylic. It really made this picture really dark. The more I corrected things after I wetted them and let them dry, the more it made the picture dark. Okay? But I love the velvety of the finishing of the acrylic. And you see how shiny it is? I like that. And I like the vibrant colors, especially the gouache up here, the purple. But I couldn't get the clouds right. Now, if I had been using water-soluble oil pastels, I'd have been able to put them clouds on there perfectly. Because I guess I use them enough. I play around with them enough, so. But I have watercolor paint, gouache, acrylic. I hardly use it, but I am going to be using it simply because I have it. Okay, simply because I have it. Pencils, paint. Let's talk about pastels. I have the Caran d'Ache Neo Pastels. These are almost as good as the Sennelier, but they do leave a little bit of flaking, which flaking is an issue. Okay, here's the Sennelier. I have 24 Sennelier. Sennelier is the best, but I gotta admit, they're the messiest to use because they're just so soft they fall apart. And as soon as you blend them on the paper, you've put too much down. But I'm learning how to use them. Here's a swatch I did with the Sennelier as well as the Neo pastel, and then for some of these colors I use the cheaper version of pastel that I have. I have a pastel brand called Simply that I got from Walmart. Some of these colors come from that cheaper product. Okay, but I did this. This is the kind of stuff I love to do with for fun. When I'm not being serious, sometimes you just want to get into art and you don't want to be serious. You just want to have fun. So this is what I do. I do abstract stuff like this. I got a lot of this stuff all over the house. I throw it away every day because I'm not going to use it for anything. Some of them, like this one, I cherish because I haven't been doing a lot of oil pastels. And I did this without, as you can see, getting my fingerprints all over everything. So, that was pretty cool. I want you to notice, too, that I blended this, even though I used Sennelier. This is Bristol paper. Even though I used the Sennelier, I couldn't blend it as well as I wanted to get these pockets filled in. So I used some Gamsol, okay, and that helps blend in the colors better. And the Gamsol is really great if you're using cheaper version oil pastels, okay? So that's that. Oil pastels, I have again, I have Van Gogh, I have Neo Pastel, Sennelier, and I have 4 different sets of oil pastels. Let's go to chalk. These were the last thing that I got when I went shopping the last time. I picked up these chalk pastels. First of all, with oil pastels, I think are the best for landscaping and anything. I think they have the most brightest, vibrant colors. I'll show you another swatch in a minute. You just can't beat oil pastels when it comes to color, but chalk pastels are very competitive depending on what brand you get and what kind of paper you're using and all that kind of stuff. And I just got these not too long ago. This was the last art supply that I just recently got. Less than 2 weeks ago I got these. And these are very, very highly pigmented, these Blick square soft pastels, and I love the colors, and but they are very, very messy. And the thing that I hate about chalk pastels is the mess, the smudge, the toxic, you know. But the other thing about chalk pastels that nobody talks about outside, I guess, YouTube very much, is that chalk pastels are water soluble. You might have known that. Chalk pastels are actually water soluble. I should have, I have a picture somewhere here. I didn't get it out. I'll show you this. Gotta get it. Find out what to do with it. What to do with it. I had it out. Oh. I had it out here so I could show it to you. Maybe it's over here. I had it out so I could show it on the video. I don't know what I did with it. Oh man. Where'd it go? Here it is. Here it is. Alright, chalk pastels are water soluble. Here's a swatch I did. And here's these here with water added over here. Okay. Here's the Charvin. Now the Charvin are water soluble. I mean, they are sent to you water soluble. They're, you know, it tells you that on the package, that they're meant for wet and dry work. And if you can see this very clearly, okay, you can see that the Charvin in the middle have the most vibrancy and the best laydown. I went over these two, the Blick and the Charvin, twice. I underpainted and then I went over them again. Okay, the Charvin have a very vintage look, and even though I'm a neo-color freak, I like these Charvin even though they're chalk. I like them, and they still have a chalky residue on them. See that? They still have a chalky residue on them after they're dry. But I love the way they look. Okay? The colors are very vibrant, and you know, here's something that I did with, now let me show you these again. This here is Blick, which are the chalk ones I just showed you that I just recently bought. Here's the Charvin, which is these right here. Okay, take a good look. Charvin Paris water soluble pastel painting sticks. Okay, that's what these are, right in the middle. Okay, and then here are the Derwent pastel pencils. I have those too. As you can see, regular chalk pastels are a lot more vibrant than pastel pencils. Okay, the pastel pencils are better for getting in small spaces and all like that. They're not good for large spaces. I've learned that. And that's where I've been blessed. If you're gonna do pastels, you're going to do hard pastels, soft pastels, and pastel pencils. If you're a pastel artist, you're going to use, depending on how many different things you draw, you're going to do soft pastels, hard pastels, and pastel pencils. Here's my Derwent 24 set of Derwent pastel pencils. Let me tell you something about these Derwent pastel pencils. Pastel pencils, again, as I said, are not as pigmented as regular soft pastels, okay? Number one. And these here, let me see if I can do this without pastels falling out. As you can see here, some of the colors, the pencils, you use a lot of material when you use these. Now, I love Derwent products. I have the Derwent Inktense pencils. Those are my favorite, but these Derwent pastel pencils, if you use them on a regular basis, you're going to end up having to replace them open stock really fast. Okay, and I don't use these that much because I'm not a chalk pastel freak. So as you can see, they ran out though. Okay, here's what I did with the Charvin water-soluble chalk pastels. When I first got them, I did this little thing. Nothing beats Neocolor, okay? Nothing beats. That's just a little abstract thing that I got into. Remember, but if you like chalk pastels, and you want to control the smudge, and you want to add some variety to your chalk pastel paintings, get these, okay? And not only when you put these down, when you lay these down, not only when you lay these down with water does it bring more vibrance and better smudge and better smudge control to the smudge, it also seals in the smudging so that you don't need to use a fixative for your pastel painting. And so, since I found out that regular chalk pastels, whether they be soft, hard, or pastel pencils, are water soluble, I'll probably continue to get chalk pastels, even though they're not my favorite. My favorite, though, is water soluble media. Okay? And last but not least, speaking of pastels, the Neocolor 2s are my favorite. Whether you're drawing landscapes, or whether you're drawing still lifes, or whatever you're drawing, the Neocolor 2s are my favorite. And they can be used for anything and everything. Okay? Let me show you an example here. If I didn't be a dummy and let it get past me, I was supposed to leave it sitting here. Let me see. What did I do with that swatch that I did yesterday? I could kill myself for moving it. Where is it? Hold on, let me... Here it is. It's over here. Okay. Here's an example. On my right is regular oil pastels. On my right. Okay. And I use a little bit of Gamsol to blend these out. These are Sennelier. Okay. But you see the vibrancy on the left looks more illustrated. It looks more... this here one on the right looks vintage. On my right. On your left, my right. This looks vintage. This is regular Sennelier. This here is Neocolor 2s. It has a more vibrant color to it. And it looks more vibrant. Now, the difference between oil pastels, regular oil pastels, and water-soluble oil pastels or wax pastels is the vibrancy and the what's the other V word? The vibrancy and the the vibrancy. I just had them. I have it on the tip of my tongue. The Neocolor 2s. Oh, vintage. Vintage and vibrant. The Neocolor 2s are more vibrant in nature. When you add water to them, they're more vibrant. Regular oil pastels like the Sennelier are more vintage looking. You see how I did the sweater? The sweater, I have this sweater, believe it or not. I have the sweater in my drawer. I have a sweater of that exact color. So that's a very vintage color that I put there. And I mixed 2 colors to get that. I mixed about 3 colors to get this. Another thing you need to understand about water-soluble media, whether it be pencils, pastels, chalk pastels, whatever it is the layering. The layering is different than painting, because when you use the pastel or the pencil to go down on the paper, you're already penetrating the paper with the chemical. Then when you wet it, you're penetrating it, okay, even more. And then when you run a brush across, especially a brush that are very stiff like these, which are my favorites, okay, when you run the brush across them, you're penetrating the paper deeply 3 times. So therefore, water-soluble media, like this here with the Neocolors, I went over this 3 times, and if you could see very closely, you could see where I ended up clogging up on some of the color. That is the setback of water-soluble media, is that you're penetrating the paper 3 times. So, you know, when you go down with acrylic paint or watercolor paint, any kind of paint, you're only penetrating it 2 times. Okay? And once you wet it, if you know what you're doing, you don't wet it very much the second time if you want to keep from eating into the paper. But you're only eating into the paper twice, whereas when you're using water-soluble pencils or pastels, you're eating into the paper 3 times. And therefore, you have to you won't be able to layer as much as you could maybe with regular oil pastels, and that as you layer with water-soluble media, you bubble up the paper. I guess you know that. Lastly, chalk pastels eat into the paper, whatever paper you're using, eat into the paper twice as fast as oil pastels. Oil pastels are easier to correct and cover up when you do eat into the paper. And you don't really have to eat into the paper with oil pastels, because it's all about blending and leaving that texture on there instead of trying to blend it off, you know. And the same thing with chalk pastels too. I'm speaking from experience. I'm not speaking from professionalism. Okay? And last but not least, let's talk about Inktense pencils. Inktense pencils, starting off again, when you use them, you're eating into the paper 3 times. Derwent Inktense pencils are my favorite, next to Neocolor 2s. These are my 2 favorite products, the Neocolor 2s and the Derwent Inktense pencils. And I also have a set of 72 of these. I have a lot of art supplies. If I I spent enough money on art supplies just in 2017 that I probably could have paid for at least half my college student loan and been done away with it. But you know, do I feel wrong for getting all this stuff? Yes and no. Okay, yes and no. Yes, because maybe I could have waited. But no, because now that I have it, I'm not going to need, now that I have it, I can play around with it, find out what I want to do and how I want to use it and how many of them I want to use. I can give things away if I want to. I'll know what I want to use and what I don't want to use. I'll know what my medium is. I don't have to spend as much money next time because I've experimented with all this stuff. One thing about being a beginning artist, which I'm beginning this again for the second time. I started off with colored pencils and oil pastels, and now I'm into water-soluble media, mainly the Neocolor 2s. Now, Inktense colored pencils or watercolor pencils are ink, watercolor, okay, all in one, okay, and here's a little swatch I did. This is not a drawing. This is just something I did to goof around with them. Okay, you see the vibrancy of the color there, and up here, this is the outliner pencil that comes with the set, and I painted over it with white, and this is what came out. And this here is the outliner pencil on top of brown or rust color. Okay, and here I use the outliner pencil, which is very important in the set. I use this outliner pencil to outline stuff. I was just practicing around. This isn't a drawing. This was just me practicing around. Now this here is a little funny something that I drew probably 3 weeks ago. After I hadn't used my Inktense pencils in probably months, I did this. And as you can see, look how vibrant those colors are. But notice that the Inktense pencils are very dark compared to regular watercolor pencils. They are very dark. The colors are very dark. Now, there are people on YouTube that are into gesso and the Mappa or whatever you call that, which causes anything you put with it, it just makes the color lighter and brighter and more blendable. So I've seen people in several videos use these pastes or whatever they are on Inktense pencils to get lighter colors, and they're still permanent even after using those other chemicals with it. When these dry, they're permanent. In other words, once they're permanent, you can go over top of them. If you make a mistake, you can go over that mistake with a different color once these dry. And I'm gonna say this too: the Inktense pencils and the Neocolor 2s have the fastest drying time. I also have a box of water-soluble pastels called Prima. I also have Cretacolor. Cretacolor dries pretty fast too. But when Cretacolor dries, there is no shine or vibrancy to the color. I mean, the colors are beautiful. All these have beautiful colors, but some colors dry, and some of them look wet when they dry. The Neocolor 2s, as I showed you here, look very shiny when they dry. Okay? And they're the only ones that have that shine to them. And I guess that's where the wax, because they're wax pastels. They're water-soluble wax pastels. So I guess that's where the wax comes in. The wax gives it that shine. Now, these other companies that are coming out trying to compete with Neocolor 2, or Caran d'Ache, I should say, these companies are trying to get out of using wax. But the wax is what gives the color the shine and the vibrancy of the color. Okay? So here's Inktense pencils. This one I did on like a piece of cardstock. This is Inktense pencils too. So just like pastels, the Inktense pencils are really different on different types of paper and so forth. Okay. One more thing about the Neocolor 2s and the Inktense pencils is that unlike watercolor, the pigment is the pigment that you're going to use. So when you put down the Neocolor 2s, they go down like crayon. Okay, most of the sticks, they go down like crayon. I have a set of 40 and I have about 5 ones that I got open stock. They're like $2 and some cents open stock. But these are pretty expensive. These are the most expensive thing that I have. Then again, no, the Inktense pencils are the most expensive thing that I have because I have a set of 72 of them. I only have a set of 40 Neocolors. But these here, these kind of pastels, you only need just a little bit of water. And if you use a lot of water, you get a watercolor effect. If you use a little bit of water, you get a more pastel effect. They go down like crayon, but they dry like pastel. Okay? That's important to know. And they are the only ones that do it in that degree. I mean, the Portfolio, I had those. They're pretty pastel-like when they dry too, but not as pastel as these, because these are a more higher quality artist brand. The Cretacolor go down very dry, and they're more like watercolor. Now the Prima are very good, and they go down like pastel more than they do paint or watercolor, but they have the longest drying time. It takes a long time for them to dry, and nobody says this on YouTube, but the Prima, when you get done using them on watercolor paper, they take the longest time to dry. Okay, and they don't have the smoothness that the Neocolor 2s have. The Neocolor 2s are real smooth when they dry, and the color doesn't break when they dry. But the Cretacolor and the Prima tend to break a little bit after the artwork is dry. Also, the Portfolio, they really break after the picture is dry. So, that's that. And I think that's about it. So before you spend a lot of money on art supplies, take your art course, learn what it is that you want to draw, what kind of work you want to draw, and then maybe get some open stock pastels. Like you can get the Neocolor and the Derwent Inktense pencils open stock just to try them out. Okay, and you can get them in several different small sets too. Okay, the Sennelier can be bought open stock. You know, so you can try them out before you spend a lot of money. And then once you And I think you can buy Gwatch for $2. Or you can buy them like in, yeah, you can buy Gwatch for $2. Okay? Until you learn what your medium is. And then once you fall in love with one medium, then you can go and get like, you know, 40 to 100 and some pastels, or 100 and some pencils, or you know, a 30 some, 40 some set of paint, or whatever, you know. But I didn't do that, and so I have all these supplies, and I had to go get a closet to put them in. I only used the 2, especially right now. I only use mainly the Inktense pencils and the Neocolor 2s. Everything else, I just goof off with it every now and then. And no, I'm not giving any of them away because, like I said, I have them all. I want to use them all, learn them all. And then once I learn them all and I know exactly what I won't be using at all, or be using the least, then I'll give some away. I already gave some stuff to my grandkids and my daughters that I don't use. So I have a lot. I've had a lot of stuff, and I still have a lot of stuff. So let me know if this helps. If you learned anything from this, I just figured we would discuss that because you got all these supplies, and I figured I would put it all in just one review to let you know some of the things that YouTube isn't telling you about these supplies. Hope this helps. Let me know if it does. Leave a comment. Give me something to make a video about. I will talk to you soon, Lord willing. God bless.